Any new student or an expat arriving in Germany has to face three early challenges: finding an accommodation, selecting the bank, and selecting the mobile service plan. Now, what makes these things complicated is the fact that these processes are dependent on each other. In this video, I would be explaining the potential solutions to tackle these challenges. So, let's get started. First things first, let's start with the accommodation search. So, as far as accommodation search is concerned, there are two possible options or two possible scenarios. Firstly, after the admission, if you have been provided accommodation by the university or the Studentenwerk, which is an organization which looks after student housing, etc., then you don't need to worry. The student residence halls or the housing provided by the Studentenwerk are one of the most reliable and cheapest option for students to stay in Germany. On the other hand, if you have not been provided any accommodation, then you need to get down to serious business, because finding an accommodation is very difficult for a newcomer in Germany. So, just after you get an admit from any university in a particular city, you should start finding an accommodation in 3 steps. Firstly, what you could do is to search and join the Facebook groups. Now you have to search these Facebook groups with the name like WGs in XYZ city, Wohnung in XYZ city, students in XYZ city. Similarly, you can also search based on the nationality. For example, Indians in XYZ city. So you can post ad or something like this and say that, hey, I am finding an apartment. I will be arriving in particular city on this and this date, and I would be needing an apartment from this particular date. So this is how you should post on the Facebook groups. Secondly, you should email the coordinator or the international office and inform them about the current situation. Many a times what happens that they have a list or they have collaborations with the locals who offer their private apartment for students. So just don't hesitate to contact these people. Thirdly, you could register yourself for a website wherein the accommodations or the private apartments are listed. One of the popular choices are WG Gesucht and Immobile Scout. Now, if we look at these websites, for example, if we look at Immobile Scout, now this website lists different apartments, and these apartments are mainly a single apartment, for example, studio apartment or more than that. The owner of these apartments or the owner of these listings are not very much inclined to give this apartment to students. So basically, these are the costlier apartments. So on the other hand, the WG Gesucht, WG means Wohngemeinschaft, which means a shared apartment. Everyone has a private room, but the common room as well as kitchen is shared. So these apartments are basically for students. So you won't have any problem in finding these apartments, but getting an apartment is difficult. But because one of the reason is you have to apply in a particular way. For example, the application is similar to a job application. There is a proper template and there are a lot of similar websites. At the end of this video, I would be giving a comprehensive list of different websites. Some are local, some websites are available in entire Germany, and also a formal template and an informal template. Based on this template, you can send messages to these particular owners. That looks professional. So coming to the next point. Now, if you don't find apartment in these 3 ways and you don't find apartment at all before arriving to Germany, then the last resort is booking an Airbnb or going to youth hostels. You can even check if someone can provide you an emergency accommodation from the Facebook groups. Now, when you are finding the accommodation, you should beware of frauds and scamsters. Let's see what are the typical indicators of a housing offer being a fraud. Here I would introduce housing fraud checklist. Well, that might sound funny, but for those who have experienced this would definitely be able to relate to these points. The first thing that fraudsters do is that they proactively initiate the contact. Since you applied to a lot of apartments in this particular period, it is difficult for you to find out if the person is new or you have already contacted this person earlier. Then the next point is amazing offer. The pictures of the apartment would show a very posh apartment at cheap or reasonable price, so you would definitely be tempted to go ahead with this offer. The third point relates to no personal meetings, which means that such people would avoid meeting in person or on Skype by pretending to be abroad or for some other reasons. The fourth point relates to the money transfer. They would ask for a money transfer online for booking this particular flat even before you have seen it personally. Finally, when you ask for keys in advance, they would take your address and say that they would be posting the keys to you. Now, what did you learn and what you should do to avoid such fake agents? Firstly, you have to verify the address. This you can do by posting the address in Google or asking someone on Facebook if this address exists or not. Secondly, you have to verify that owner. You can invite him for a video call just to discuss few things and the formalities. Third thing, you should pay only after you have a personal appointment or you have met him in person or one of your friend or a known person have met that particular owner in person. If you have got an accommodation, then the first important document that you need to get from a landlord is a confirmation letter, which is a Wohnungsgeberbestätigung, which means that is a confirmation that this person is staying at this particular address from this and this date. This document is very important because with this document you have to register in the city or city registration office within 14 days. If you don't do so and when you don't even notify about your arrival, then you could be charged up to 30 euros. So just avoid such situations. So this was everything about the accommodation. I would be coming up with similar interesting videos in the coming weeks so that you make informed decisions.